Good afternoon to our Board of Commissioners. We want to call this meeting to order. August the 16th, 2021. It is approximately 2:03, I believe. And we want to approve for one of our commissioners is calling in. Commissioner Annabelle, you on the line?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
It's a mic right here, Miss Lizzie, if you want to pull your chair
If you
up.
could identify
Yeah, pull your
yourself
chair up, yeah.
so that I know who's speaking.
Office of General Counsel, Leticia Hodges. Through the chair, I was just going to say, since I think it's anticipated that Miss Annabelle Hernandez will be participating by phone, if you wanted to go ahead and move a general consensus that the board approves her participating because she's out of town, that way when she gets on the line, she'll be already in a posture to participate and vote. Okay?
Thank you so much. Is the Board of Commissioners in agreement that Ms. Annabelle can participate once she comes on the line? Let me, is the Board of Commissioners are in agreement that Commissioner Annabelle can participate once she comes on the line?
Yes.
Thank you. It has been approved that she will be a part of this meeting, August the 16th, 2021. At this time, City Council member, our liaison for the Jacksonville Housing Authority, Council Dennis, will address the Board of Commissioners.
So through the chair, I just received text correspondence from Councilmember Dennis that he is not able to log on. So maybe a staff member can work with him or resend him the login information, but that's just what he's telling me. I don't know if it's an issue on his end or our end, but I just wanted to let you know I got that communication.
Mr. Alexander, do we have a phone in here?
Yes, we can.
Can you possibly, maybe, you want us to try to call Councilman Dennis
No,
to see?
I'm just letting you know that he's having a problem with the log. Indicated that he doesn't have the log.
Can you, I don't know if he can hear us.
I can give the staff his number.
Yes, please.
He can
Thank
actually
you.
call this number, which is 630-3001.
Mr. Antonio, do you see any, while we're waiting on Councilman Dennis to get on, you see any public comments? Is anybody on for public comments? Okay, okay. So,
There was also some that came through my email
okay,
that I copied for board distribution. They were quite lengthy, but they are copied and can circulated to the board.
Okay. Um, Gentleman Counsel, did Councilman Dennis get the information?
I don't know, he's not responding to my text, but,
Okay.
you're free to move to the next.
Okay.
item.
At this time, we're going to have our public comments. I would like to say to the public, as we let you in to speak, we have a clock. You have 3 minutes to speak in public comments. If you go past your 3 minutes, we will cut you off. You have 3 minutes for public comments. At this time, our first public comment. Can you state your name so we'll know who we're speaking to? Who's
Rhonda
speaking
Lattimore.
to us? You're in the presence of the Board of Commissioners.
Can you hear me, Ms. Brock? Commissioner Brock?
We can't hear him. We sorry. We have to start you over. Whoever that was speaking, we couldn't hear you. You got to start the time.
Commissioner Brock?
Yeah, it's got to be. Hold just 1 second. Hold 1 second. We're trying to get you so we can all hear you. Okay, can you say something now?
Hi, it's Rhonda Lattimore.
Okay, okay. The clock is starting now. Thank you, Ms. Lattimore.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rhonda Lattimore, the former Resident Services Director. In public service, leadership is an honor and a privilege. Unfortunately, Dwayne Alexander has grossly violated the honor and exploited the privilege under his authority as the interim president and CEO. The OIG could not substantiate hearsay, but Dwayne Alexander and Taffany Reed was not exonerated either. JJ employees are fully aware of Dwayne Alexander's abusive behaviors and his alleged effort to conspire with Taffany Reed to defraud the agency by permitting her to live rent-free in a 3-bedroom unit at the Waves. But the alleged cover-up to conceal theft and to violate federal HUD regulations is just as worse as the act. There is plenty of hearsay, but JJ employees have become silent to report these actions and behaviors due to the fear and retaliation and employment and termination. The OIG, however, does not address personnel issues, so I come to you today, Commissioners, first to advocate for fairness by overturning the wrongful termination of myself and others, thereby reinstating our employment, and to hold Dwayne Alexander and Taffany Reed accountable for gross misconduct and mismanagement. I was wrongfully terminated by Mr. Alexander and Ms. Reed on June 24th, 2021. However, Taffany Reed falsely used an OIG review to distort and misrepresent the report to justify my termination. On the other hand, Mr. Alexander aborted his responsibilities as my supervisor and as a leader. Mr. Alexander proclaims he is all about the residents, but he gutted the Resident Services Department of 3 excellent standing employees, including myself, without meeting with me or verifying Ms. Reed's actions. As a result, productivity and management and morale was adversely impacted within the department. Also, he was fully aware back in May and June of this year that Taffany Reed failed to deny 2 of my former staff earned promotions and salary increases. By retaliation, she used the OIG review to support my termination. Commissioners, after your review, it is our hope that if found in violation, Mr. Alexander and Taffany Reed is held accountable for gross misconduct, fraud, and mismanagement. Also, I believe Mr. Alexander has already failed to earn the opportunity to be named permanent president and CEO of JJ. Employees should never be abused nor at work in fear of losing their jobs on a daily basis. He was hired as the vice president of public housing, not the president and CEO of JJ. The Jacksonville Housing Authority deserves the highest level of ethics, integrity, and conduct and leadership. Someone who truly respects and embraces the mission and seeks to unite all that are connected to it. Your prompt response regarding employment reinstatement is appreciated. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Lattimore. Our liaison. Thank you, Ms. Lattimore, for your public comments. Our liaison is on the line at this time, Councilman Dennis.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Virtual team link working or not working? Because there are a few people waiting, and actually I'm one.
There's nobody waiting. Councilman, they checked, they say no one is waiting to get in.
Okay, yeah, I know I'm at my office, or whatever link you were providing, that's the link to the waiting. But, I won't.
Hold on, Councilman Dennis, please. Ms. Evan, can you put that mic, thank you, Antonio. I'm sorry, Councilman Dennis, I wanted us to be able to hear you. Can you start over, please?
Yes, I was just asking for the link that we were provided. We're all just sitting in the waiting room. It said, we'll let people in the meeting know you're waiting. And so we just logged into the link that we were provided. And so I think someone provided us a link. So, but I won't, prolong, my portion. I want to thank you all for allowing me, to speak. As you all know that the job that you all do is very, very important. You all serve, our most vulnerable population, and we continue to have challenges as it relates to affordable housing. We have a couple of troubled properties where our residents in Jacksonville, they're living in deplorable conditions. And so, even though the Jacksonville Housing Authority doesn't oversee those properties, that again, we have a housing crisis. So I just want to thank you all for your service, and know that the members of the City Council, we're totally invested in what you all do. And so, we're here to work with y'all and be partners. In saying that, I know on the agenda today, you will be taking up the item on a permanent CEO. And, for those new board members, several months ago, the council passed a resolution unanimous that for the board not to move forward with hiring a CEO until it was a fully constituted board. And so I want to thank the mayor's office for appointing the remaining seats. And again, thank you for your service. And I'm going to say this. The decision of the next CEO is the decision of the board. It's the 7 members of the board, because you all will be the ones selecting the next CEO, and you all will be the ones managing that CEO. And so it should be someone that you all vet and you all select. And so in full transparency, board chair and I, we met last week, and we talked about the same thing that I'm talking about right now. It's the board. It's your decision moving forward. However, I did express to Board Chair Brock that it was very enlightening, some of the thoughts of some of my colleagues at the last Rules Committee meeting where we confirmed Mr. Green. And so if none of you did not get opportunity to listen or go back and watch that council meeting, I would encourage you all to do, because we are partners, and so it's just important for you all to kind of see some of the thoughts of some of the council members moving forward. But in saying that, I do support you all. Your decision. You are independent board, independent agency, and just want to let you all know that we're in support of the decisions that you all make. But just know that decision that you all make will affect not just the clients that you serve, but also your employees. So I just want to thank the board for allowing me to speak. And if there are no questions for me, I'm finished. And thank you, Chairwoman Brock, for allowing me to speak.
Councilman Dennis, hold 1 second. Any of the Board of Commissioners have anything for our liaison, Council Dennis? Any questions for him before he exit? Seeing that there's no questions, Councilman Dennis, thank you so much for your participation today.
Thank you so much. And if someone can send us the link, I would really appreciate it. It'll be easier for me to follow virtually versus on the phone.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you.
We will return to, after our liaison have spoke, we would now return back to our public comments. Our next public comment, Mr. Antonio. Okay. Did you hear your phone number? He read the phone number off for the next person. We don't know who you are. If you can speak at this time. Read the phone number again, Mr. Antonio, please.
Phone number 216-496-4598.
If you can hear the voice of the commissioner, you can speak at this time.
That's it.
Okay, next public comment.
Phone number 904-307-3735.
Hold on.
Madam Chair, if I may, a point of order, would you be willing to take a 2 or 3 minute recess and make sure, because there's a lot of folks on the line and I do think we should afford them the opportunity to speak. Would you be willing to take
Okay.
2 or 3 minutes and adjourn us for 2 or 3 minutes while we work through the technical issues here, Madam Chair?
Okay, we're gonna break for,
Not an
I'm
adjournment,
sorry.
apologies, it's a recess.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
We're gonna recess for about 2 minutes to iron everything out. So for you that was in public comments and Mr. Antonio read your number off and you didn't respond, please stay on the line. We're gonna try to get you in to make sure that you can give public comments. Thank you.
Mr. Ronda wants to be reinstated.
I didn't hear that part because I have a connection.
She made him like he's the worst person in the world, and him and Taffany ganked and kicked out. Listen, continue. She's out of mind.
I think she's. Watch out, she will be bang, 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 bang.
Oh, God.
Watch out. Now she said exit. See what the host already exited. I'll call up again. Yeah, that's the
Don't,
number.
because if you call, better come and listen with me. Because they hear your name and everything when you call in.
Oh, they just give me a permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. There's everybody out there.
Jacksonville Housing Authorities has resumed back from off of our recess. Miss Evan from our IT Tech will explain to everyone that is on the phone or online, trying to get online, if you will listen for this information.
Good afternoon. If you want to get to the link to join through your computer, go to www.jaxha.org, and that'll bring you right to join the meeting. If you are on the phone, when you're ready for public comment, if you could just say your phone number and we'll put you in line for making your comment. And if you're on the computer, raise your hand. There's an option to raise your hand and we'll call on you when it's your turn.
When they go to jaxha.org, there are a lot of tabs. So do you want to walk them through perhaps exactly how they get to the link?
If you click on the calendar, you'll see the invite for this board meeting. It should be the first one in line, first or second. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, our next public comment, you can, our next public comment, you can speak now. Can you hear the Board of Commissioners, whoever is on the line?
Good morning. This is Barbara Sanchez. I'm not sure if I'm next in line or not. I also would like to let you know that Sarah Wilson Craft is having a lot of problems getting on.
Are you speaking now in public comments?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm next because I was never prompted to give my name and to know when to speak and when not to.
Okay, but okay. What I'm asking, yes, Commissioner Phillip.
Maybe one suggestion is that anyone who's not on the Teams, anyone who's not on the Teams site, if they can email that directly, I don't know if it's from Amanda or here or Van or somebody, maybe they could email them and tell them that they would like to be a part of public comments and then call them in. So that might be a way to streamline it.
Okay. I- if you're not on team, you say, Commissioner Phillip, if
That was
they're
just
not
a
on team?
suggestion.
Oh, okay. Okay, do we have another prompt in line, Antonio, to speak in public comment? We don't? Okay, Ms. Barbara, did you want to speak? Because he said we have no one else in line.
Yes, I wanted to, yes, I do. But there was nothing, when I dialed in, there was nothing there that would prompt me to let people know that I wanted to speak. I just came on, so I thought that was important for you to know that there was nothing that indicated that I had to push something in order to speak.
Okay,
But if I can continue to read my statement, I'd like to. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Hold 1 second. You, can you give her time, please? Thank you. All right, we're ready, Ms. Barbara.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. I come before you in hopes that we all can agree to place Mr. Alexander as the CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority. He has performed his job at an exemplary level. Mr. Alexander demonstrates an extraordinary commitment to the Housing Authority as well as to the resident councils and the residents. Mr. Alexander ensures exceptional support, resources, and training to his senior staff. He can discern quickly what their individual needs are and moves efficiently to provide the training that they need. This is the Jacksonville Housing Authority needs, and the residents, the staff, and the council members want. It is this time, ladies and gentlemen, of the Board of Commissioners of the Jacksonville Housing Authority to recognize what we, the resident council members, and the residents all know, that Mr. Alexander was brought to us for such a time as this, and that is to become the CEO of the Jacksonville Housing Authority. Thank you.
Ms. Barbara,
Yes, ma'am.
can you give your name and are you a resident?
I am a resident. I'm also the resident president at Brentwood Lake Apartments.
Okay,
Go
ahead.
I am also the vice president of the Resident Advisory Board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If I could mention.
Now joining.
Public comments, you got devices on and it's making noise, we can't hear you. At this time, can you-
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Oh, hello?
Hello? I don't know what happened. Maybe we need to call in.
I
'Cause I can't hear them anymore.
Okay, I have called in, and I thought it
hear
said
you.
that I.
We can hear you. We can hear you. You can
We're
speak.
able to hear.
Oh, okay. So, Arnice, they said they can hear me. I don't know. Can y'all hear Miss Parker?
We can hear you.
Can everybody hear me?
Okay, so
Yes.
may I
Yes.
make a comment, Madam Chair?
Yes.
All right, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I'm Jody Elizabeth Jeffrey, co-owner of Brooks Jeffrey Marketing. I'll briefly share my experience and background to explain why I speak in support of Mr. Alexander being named permanent CEO. My agency was founded in 1984. In the 37 years since our founding, we've grown to a staff with over 40, serving clients nationwide. For over a decade, my firm has worked with housing authorities all over the United States, from very small authorities with under 100 units to extra large ones like Jacksonville Housing Authority. My job is to help a housing authority's management tell their story, providing transparency when communicating with residents and the public. I chose the best housing authorities in the country to work with and represent. Since 2019, I've worked with the Jacksonville Housing Authority senior team and Mr. Alexander. But even before this, I was aware of Mr. Alexander and his successes in affordable housing at both Jacksonville and at other agencies across the U.S. As you know, public affordable housing continues to evolve and transition away from government support. Mr. Alexander's decades of experience in all aspects of affordable housing are an incredible asset to Jacksonville Housing Authority as this transition takes place. Most importantly, of all the CEOs I work with, Mr. Alexander is one of the most passionate in his caring for residents. He continually works to provide the best housing and supportive services possible. Mr. Alexander's management skills motivate all around him. He sets goals with accountable guidelines for all staff, himself as well. Mr. Alexander's very fair expectations inspire the Jacksonville Housing Authority staff to do their best. In turn, the residents benefit from the dedication of the staff. I'm honored to work with Mr. Alexander in furthering the mission and goals of Jacksonville Housing Authority. I strongly support a vote to name Mr. Alexander permanent CEO. Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Thank you. Next public comment.
I stand here again today to express Mr. Alexander to be the permanent CEO of this agency. He has done so much for so many in the 2.5 years as interim CEO. Mr. Alexander fights for the education, promotion, and personal growth of employees, which is across the board and an overall improvement of the agency. The residents have expressed on multiple occasions they want Mr. Alexander as the CEO. And when they ask for help, he outdoes himself for them. Mr. Alexander has demonstrated his commitment to the needs of the staff, residents, and the health of this agency. I have worked for 3 CEOs as senior staff member, and there isn't any comparison. Mr. Alexander is the most experienced and qualified person. Mr. Alexander has personally guided, motivated, trained, and pushed me to be a true leader. Anyone that knows me knows I would never stand here unless I were confident that Mr. Alexander was the right person to be CEO. Mr. Alexander has so much to improve this agency as interim CEO. I can only imagine what Mr. Alexander would do once he named the permanent CEO. We lost him because we waited so long to decide. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members, for your time.
Thank you. The next public comment. Public comment from Kathy Hunt.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As an employee of Jacksonville Housing Authority for almost 25 years, I can say that I've been part of a few administrations. Each leader brought strengths and weaknesses to the table, and we made adjustments accordingly. Presently, we are following the leadership, direction, and guidance of Mr. Alexander, who is a self-motivated, driven individual who thrives on surpassing all levels of expectation, thus making his accomplishments by far extraordinary, not ordinary. He not only tells you the end of the destination, but he demonstrates the needed steps for a successful journey. Is he infallible? No. Are we? No. We're human and subject to error. While perfection is out of our reach, excellence is not, and we are constantly striving for the mark. He holds each of us accountable for the roles we play within the organization and expects each of us to master our role and craft in order to be fully effective. We're coached individually and collectively, and the lessons learned will result in practical application. Our goal is to be the best housing authority in the country, and with Mr. Alexander as the CEO, we'll be on the cutting edge of innovation, the pinnacle of modernization, and a true picture of what it looks like to be a public servant. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment. Ms. Jackie Harris.
Hi, good afternoon, Board of Directors and fellow coworkers. I just wanted to make a comment that I haven't been here that long, been here less than 5 months, but I see the difference between public housing and the private sector. We're moving forward with our goals. As people said already, that it's not that easy. However, we're on the forefront. And I'm not understanding what the delay is, but that's my opinion. I think we should just settle this and hire Mr. Alexander as a full-time CEO and be done with this so we can move on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arnie Parker
Next public comment.
is now exiting.
Public comment. Sandra Smith. You have to unmute yourself if you want to speak.
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome.
I'm currently an employee at the Jacksonville Housing Authority and wanted to speak on behalf of the former department that I have under the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. Mr. Alexander connected with every single one of our participants in the program. It's a caseload of 400 participants or residents of the FSS Family Self-Sufficiency Program. We had orientations at night, after hours, to give the residents an opportunity to be a part of that enrollment process into the family self-sufficiency. Mr. Alexander was on the call speaking on behalf of the Jacksonville Housing Authority to the residents joining from public housing and Section 8. It's a caseload of 400 participants. We always have an open door policy. We took the FSS program to a different level. We work with the public service grant with the city of Jacksonville. He attended that meeting that I was there in person and he was there through the Teams meeting. Is always a very supportive CEO. I say that to say that we need someone at his caliber and his leadership to move us forward in this process. Thank you for all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. The next public comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Fatima Johnson. I'm the former NNC coordinator for the Jacksonville Housing Authority. I'm asking for the board to consider reinstating me, overturning my termination, and allow me to resign. I worked for the Jacksonville Housing Authority for 22 years. I had an exemplary record, no problems, served the residents, everything. And then my termination was based on something that the HR director did not do her due diligence. And I don't think that Mr. Alexander did his due diligence in knowing that my work and my character and the caliber of work I've done to talk with me to help me understand that the policies had changed. After I met with HR Director Stephanie Reed, I corrected the issue right away. But however, I still lost my job of 22 years with an agency. Next year, I would have been 55 and retiring. Why would I put myself in a position to lose after all these years I've worked and gave my all to an agency and to the residents that we served? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. The next public comment. We can hear you. You can unmute yourself. Okay.
Sarah Wilson Craft.
You can speak. We can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I appreciate you taking time to hear my comments. My name is Sarah Wilson Craft. I am the Secretary of Centennial Townhouses West. I'm a resident, and I'm also the Resident Advisory Board President. I've spoken with you guys on numerous occasions about the dedication, the hard work of Mr. Alexander, and I've actually asked you guys, what is the issue? Why can't we make Mr. Alexander our CEO? As the representative of the residents of all the communities, to include Section 8, I am asking you to place Mr. Alexander as our CEO. He works hand in hand with the RAB board. He attends meetings with the resident councils. He invites residents to come in and sit down and meet with him to discuss their concerns, to discuss anything they need to. That's the kind of person we need in the CEO position. Somebody that's actually concerned about the residents and what our needs and our desires are. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is
Good
Satonia Hart. I would like to speak on the behalf of Mr. Alexander. I've been working with Mr. Alexander for about 3 years now, and I can truly say that he really has a heart for leadership. You know, he really do whatever needs to be done for the employees and whatever it takes to make JJ move forward. Mr. Alexander has demonstrated all of that. He's demonstrated change. He has also showed a lot of compassion. And I know, because I work in the HR department, many behind the scenes may not know that or see that or whatever, but I am speaking on the behalf. I know the heart leadership that Mr. Alexander has. Thank you.
Thank you. Next public comment.
Hi, my name is Linda Sims, and I am the Manager of Executive Affairs for the Jacksonville Housing Authority. During my 23-year of employment with the Jacksonville Housing Authority, I have worked for 3 CEOs, along with numerous number of commissioners. my biggest concern, or one of my biggest concerns, is affordable housing. Jacksonville has had an issue with affordable housing or a crisis in affordable housing for many years, at least the years that I've been here. We've had a waiting list. We've had a wait list of 10,000 plus between two programs of families that need housing. Unfortunately, the affordable housing, the board of the housing authority has done little to no movement in contributing to the positive housing in Jacksonville. Unfortunately, they have tolerated years and years of poor behavior, have avoided transparency. For some reason, the Sunshine Law is just coming about in the last 3 years. They have had shade meetings, closed board meetings. They have shut staff down for speaking. The problems that were in this agency was the gut of the problem. The problem that was in the agency, that it was controlled by the powers that be. We were high standing because of the first CEO. Many of the long-term employees knew what to do to keep this agency afloat, and we did it. But we were rewarded with little to no raises. We were down 30 positions, still received nothing. Mr. Alexander has come in here, has brought a designation that will lead us to the next level in technology, in affordable housing. We have not received an affordable housing community since 1998, Gregory West. That's the first and only community we have obtained, and the board, under several members in this room today, has required very little of the last CEO. He watched golf. He did nothing. He had to be chastised over and over again. I don't understand why Mr. Alexander is being put on the block for trying to make Jacksonville and these employees
You're
higher.
out of
I'll
town.
speak at
You're
the
out of
next one.
time,
Thank you.
Ms. Sims.
Thank you.
Next public comment. There's no more public comments. Moving on with our agenda, we want to thank all of the participants of the public who have spoken this meeting this afternoon. The Board of
now joining.
have heard all of the public comments. We thank you for your comments. At this time, I would like to, first of all, before I address our Board of Commissioners, I would like to welcome, we have a new board commissioner, Mr. Green. We're going to allow him to give us a little bit of his background so that we can, here at the Jacksonville Housing Authority, welcome him on this Board of Commissioners. Mr. Green.
Yes, thank you. My name is Andre Green. It's a pleasure to be here today. A little bit of background about myself. I currently work at Synovus Bank as a private wealth advisor. I am not a resident of Jacksonville, but I've been here for 20 plus years. I attended Bishop Kenny High School, and I finished my finance degree at UNF. Originally, I'm from Chicago, and what I said in my Rules Committee meeting, this board is a little special to me because, one, my mother was a product of public housing in Chicago, And through the public housing, she was able to go to school DePaul, which is a prestigious university, receive her master's degree, become a CPA, which then afforded me the luxuries to, attend a private high school in Florida, even though I didn't have to, and play sports, receive a scholarship, and that was all due to the trickle up, or however you want to speak about it, but how public housing, it may not help everyone, but it will help some and change their lives forever. Thank you.
So much, Commissioner Green, an awesome testimony. I watched your review when you went before the board. Um, and so we thank you so much for sharing your testimony with us today. As the chair of the Jacksonville Housing Authority, we this afternoon has been overwhelmed with a bunch of public comments, and we all have heard them all. We heard our liaison, we've heard everything from everyone. I just want to share with you that we we have definitely have work that we have to do. We have a bunch of resolutions on our meeting for today. I want us to definitely keep our minds and our hearts clear, and so that we can understand all that we have to do today. I'll, I am asking you as commissioners to please take under consideration everything that we have to do here today as a board. Regardless, as a board, take under consideration what we have to do today. Thank you. Moving on with our agenda, we have the Robert Rules overview by our General Counsel, Lazikia.
Okay, so through the chair, because you have a very packed agenda, I promise I'm going to try to do this in 3 minutes, but just some reminders with respect to Robert Rules of Order. That's the parliamentary procedure that we use to conduct orderly business. And all of our boards and commissions across consolidated government and our independent authorities use Robert Rules of Order. So just some quick reminders before I get into the basic motions. Generally, no person is allowed to speak until you've been recognized by the chair. Only one question at a time may be considered, and only one person may have the floor at any time. Members have a right to know what the pending question is that's on the table so that you can understand what you're voting on. So it's okay for you to ask the chair to restate the motion so that the person that's taking the minutes is very clear, or a court reporter, or you, so that you can make that vote. And one of the items that's on your agenda actually was the presentation of the bylaws. We're going to defer that because I believe at the June meeting, we changed the numbers that were necessary to approve. I thought we changed that to a majority of the members present, some discrepancy there, so I'll be going back and checking it. But usually it is a majority of the commissioners that are present that can act on something as long as your quorum has been established. So really quick, in my 2 minutes left, there are some basic motions that you should just be familiar with. Main motion, any one of you can make a main motion during the meeting. And I apologize for anybody like my colleague sitting next to me that probably already knows this stuff, but again, we're just trying to give a primer. But you need one member to make a motion. You always need a member to second. If you don't have a member to second anything, the motion dies, okay, for lack of a second. Once you have a member that seconds a motion, what should happen is the chair should restate the motion. And when the chair restates the motion, that motion becomes the property of the board. And so the only way that it can be amended is if another member makes a motion to do an amendment and you follow those same rules. Motion, second, and then the chair would restate the motion, open it up for board discussion. If it's warranted to have public comment, you could open it up for public comment, and then the board would take a vote and the chair would announce all of those, whether the motion has been approved or whether the motion has failed. There are some other quick motions. You can have a motion to reconsider. That's if the board happens to put a motion on the table and it fails. If the party that was on the prevailing side wants to reconsider that, they can actually move to reconsider that motion. But that reconsideration has to be done at the same meeting where the vote, original vote occurred. The other common practice is a motion to rescind. That's when you're taking something that the board has already voted on, and then you make a subsequent motion at a different meeting to rescind some action that the board has already taken. You can also have a motion to withdraw. So any member can withdraw a motion prior to a second, but once you get a second and the chair has restated that motion and it's the property of the board, even a motion to withdraw requires an action by the full board. Last thing I've heard a lot, and I'll end it with this. Typically, your board meetings, and when you take action, it is the point so that it's full, free debate. And it's only on rare occasions that debate is cut off. But if a member, let's say you were talking about something and you had, been debating it for an hour, a member can call the question. And a lot of times we hear this phrase being used when the debate has already ended. But you really only end it when the debate is in the thick of things and you're really trying to cut it off. And when a member calls the question, that automatically you take a vote to determine by 2/3 if everybody is in agreement to end the debate, because that's so huge, and that's why the level to end the debate requires a 2/3 vote instead of the majority, because typically you wouldn't want the debate to be ended. So I just want to, so if somebody wanted to call the question, board member Phillips would say, I call the question. The chair would immediately put it to a vote. If that vote prevailed, then the debate would be cut, and then the next action would be for the chair to go back to that original motion and call for a vote. Okay, if there are no questions, I will let you get on to your very packed agenda. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Ms. Lazikia, for that information for the Robert Rules of Order. So to our Board of Commissioners, we are now ready to start our agenda. We have our minutes for June and July, but we have deferred the minutes. We need to listen to our tapes. So if you would allow us to defer that, we would like to defer our minutes and have it at our next board meeting for approval. Yes.
I just have a question and then a comment. You said you're deferring them because you need to listen to the minutes. Was what was presented inaccurate? Is that why we're?
Yes, ma'am. Some of the, as we were going through our minutes, me and our legal counsel, there were some things that we know that were in the discussion of our meeting that wasn't in our minutes. So we need to listen to the tapes to make sure, because I had one version, she had another version. So we just want to make sure that we clear on it before we approve it.
I'm just a little concerned by that, Madam Chair, because, we only have meetings once a month.
Yes, ma'am.
And typically, in other organizations that I've been a part of, your minutes are out within a week of your meeting occurring, which would have been sufficient time in order to allow any. I think that we took some actions in that July meeting that impact some of the actions that we were planning to take today. And therefore, that's causing me a bit of concern. I'd like, through the chair, for us to ask or direct our executive director, we need to, this board has, through the IG report, as well as through requests from the previous board chairmen, both myself and, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Griggs as well, we have had concerns with our record keeping and with our minutes and not timely having them. And so we need to do something different than what we've done in the past, Mr. Alexander. I would ask that we look at another way of maintaining our minutes, whether it's hiring a person with the skill set necessary in order to get that done. And it goes further than just the minutes, but also documenting, making sure that we put the minutes up on the website in a timely manner, making sure that all our meetings are noticed properly. So many things that we thought at this point had been corrected, that were noted over the last several years, we still seem to be suffering from those same things. And so we just need to get the right person in the right seat in order to ensure that all of those administrative things that that caused a 30-minute delay in today's meeting, really with the challenges of technology, we've been doing virtual meetings now for going into our second year. We're in our second year of doing virtual meetings and having meetings online. And so we need to have these bugs worked out. We need to find a way or the right people to get it done so that we don't find ourselves here again. And I see that colleagues is
Okay, okay. Hold your point, Commissioner Walker. I will acknowledge you. Just a minute. Commissioner Phillip, to piggyback off of some of the things that you just addressed, pretty much Mr. Alexander came in as our interim CEO, and he was following the lead of what was already laid out here at this Jacksonville Housing Authority. And so he did not have those luxuries of the board telling him, well, we want you to change this, this, this. He was following the lead and the vision that was already laid out. Have we been speaking with Mr. Alexander on change, and have change been made since Mr. Alexander been here? Yes, it has. It has been a lot of changes made. So we just want you to understand that, yes, we are. We are concerned about the minutes. We are concerned about our agenda. We are concerned about all of those things getting out in a timely manner. So much so that we are planning on, when we get further down in our agenda, we plan on changing some of the things that we have been doing when we were doing them, so that it would give everyone who is a part of the Jacksonville Housing Authority and the Board of Commissioners, everyone would be on time with everything. And if you notice, one change today is here in our room today, is the reason that we have this young lady here today taking the minutes, because we are trying to get our board and the Jacksonville Housing Authority on a smooth sail. Thank you. Commissioner Walker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the chair to Commissioner Phillips. Commissioner Phillips, I'll echo what you mentioned. I do think, some more streamlined processes are appropriate. I do appreciate, Madam Chair, that we have a court reporter here today. I think that is a fantastic idea. I don't know where that came from, but whoever idea it was fantastic. So thank you for that. Madam Chair, you mentioned that there might be some changes, and I do believe there'll be some appointments to a governance and oversight committee, which I think it would be appropriate that that committee take up these changes and present the proposals at the next board meeting. But I'll defer those comments till that time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillip. I'm sorry, Commissioner Walker. I'm sorry. Thank you for your comments. Any other commission before I move forward? Okay, so at this time, we're going to now have our overview of our finances from Mr. Dennis.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. At our financial today, this is the 10th of our fiscal budget. Percentage of that 80%. We'll start off with our operating income by source. For the current month, we have operating income of $613,555, and year to date, our income is $5,000,000. So we're just we'll start off with our central office cost center. Our budgeted income year to date is $4,931,909. We're actually at $4,109,925. So we're doing very well. For our budget, we're at 85%. Our actual income year to date is $4,204,200. So we're over about 2% for the month. On the expense side, our expense, we're budgeting $2 million. Our actual expense is at $2,795,734. So we're right on track with our expense. Moving on to public housing, our operating revenue, we're 15% over budget. Primarily, this is due to our RAD conversion closing late for Hogan Creek. We had income up for that property through June, so it's over budget. So we're doing very well with our income for public housing. On to the expense. We're budgeted to be at $11.8 million. Our expenses are at 12.9, and again, this is due to Hogan Creek being over budget. For our Section 8 program, we're looking at our administrative side. Our budget year to date is $5,957,906. And our actual is at $5,454,260. So we're over budget on our income, so that's very good. We've received additional vouchers during our year, and our administrative fees are up because of this. On the expense side, we're keeping expenses right in line with where we should be. Our expenses are budgeted at 83%. We're just over that at 84%, so we're keeping our expenses in line with where they should be. For our affordable housing property, Gregory West, our budgeted income year to date is $1,283,000. Our actual income is $1,286,000, so we're right on track with our income. And for our expenses, we're anticipating $652,000. Our actual expenses have come in at $611,000, so our expenses are doing very well there. And a look at our MENAR and our ratio. Our quick ratio is averaging between 4 and 13 months, so that's very 4 and 13. That's very good. And our MENAR, which is our number of months that we have available to cover our expenses, is at just about 11 months. That's it. And then to our RAD properties, which includes Waves, Centennial Towers, and Hogan Creek. We are at 50% of our income. This is primarily due to Hogan Creek closing late. And then on our expense side, we're about the same. We're at 56%. It's a lot lower than anticipated because Hogan Creek closed late. A quick look at our we ended the month up with $42,243,000. We have about $15 million in public housing reserves, which are restricted for public housing. And we have roughly $13 million that are unrestricted. And then the remaining funds are within Section 8 and our mod rehab programs, which are restricted to those programs. Any questions about our financials?
Commissioner Walker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dennis, thank you for the financials. You mentioned the RAD, you're over budget. Can you explain what you mean by over budget and also confirm whether or not there are contingencies set aside or in place to cover any over budget line items, please?
The RAD, we're actually under budget.
So I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, over budget. Are we over budget on any of our properties at this point?
The only thing we're over budget on is the income for public housing because the Logan Creek closed later than we had anticipated. So we had more income in Logan Creek.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other commissioners have questions about our financials? Commissioner Phillip?
Commissioner Walker had a number of questions and a one-way communication that he sent to the staff. Were all of your concerns and questions answered?
Madam Chair, if I may address the question. No, they were not, Commissioner Phillips, which I appreciate you bringing that up. However, Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to address those now with Mr. Lohr or during the budget conversation?
No, I had told Mr. Alexander not to address those because I wanted to wait until we got the committees going so that then you could get those answers that you wanted.
Madam Chair, due respect, if we're voting on a budget today, I would not feel comfortable voting on any budgets today unless several of those questions are answered before we go to a budget vote.
Okay. Okay, so you want to ask those questions? You want to answer to those questions today?
Yes, Madam
Okay.
Chair, and whether you prefer now or during the budget conversation, but I would like to address many of those questions or have a debate about them.
Okay,
Whatever's prudent to you, Madam Chair.
okay. We can, we'll wait, Mr. Dennis, till we do the budget. Thank you. Thank you for the financials. The operation of resolutions presented by Mr. Alexander.
Thank you, Commissioner. We are asking that the board approve resolution number 20, JHA 19 to approve revisions to the emissions and occupancy policy for housing administration for Section 8. We actually had a public hearing on this initiative. Annually, we do updates to our ACOP and our administrative plan. There's no changes in our ACOP this year, and we have very small changes to our administrative plan. And we had small changes was change of preferences for disabled folks, and we also include language in there for the mainstream vouchers. So we're asking the board to approve this JHA 19 for the public housing administration. Changes to the board here.
Resolution JHA 19 is open for any questions or discussion from the Board of Commissioners.
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay. It was moved by Commissioner Rosalind and second by Commissioner Walker for discussion. Yes.
I have one question. How long was the public hearing, and were there any? How long was the public hearing, and were there any questions brought forward?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Griggs. We didn't have many questions at all. It was very limited questions, but during there, we had general counsel from the city there participating in the meeting, and also we had a counsel from legal aid there as well. So basically, no questions. We went through all the changes, and no comments or questions, basically.
Any other questions? Seeing that there's no more questions for Resolution JHA 19, call to vote to approve JHA 19 resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. The resolution JHA 19 passed with all votes from the Board of Commissioners. Mr. Alexander.
Thank you. Commissioner, we're asking the board to approve Resolution 2021 JHA 20 to approve the employee sellback option for 2021. We bring this to the board every year. The maximum amount of money it is about $176,000, which is on the books, and that's if everyone opt out. Some folks may not have the time, and some people may choose to opt out altogether. But we're just asking the board to approve this for the ones that do want to sell back their lead back. And as you know, this is an annual thing every year.
JHA 20 resolution for sellback for the employees. Can I get a motion for discussion?
Madam Chair. So moved, Madam Chair.
Through the chair, can you confirm, I didn't hear the other commissioner that we were anticipating join the line because I assumed she would announce herself, but do you mind just asking if she's on the phone, Annabelle
Thank you.
Hernandez?
Okay. Is Commissioner Annabelle, are you on the line?
No, she's not.
Okay, thank you. JHA Resolution 20 for employees for sellback. No, the motion was for discussion so that if any commissioner had any questions about it, and then now we can open it for a motion to approve it. Yes.
Through the chair, I believe you had a motion and a second.
Right.
So now you can actually move to vote on resolution 2021 AHA 20.
Okay, so it's 20 was approved?
No, you had a motion and a second.
Uh-huh.
You open it up for discussion, so now you're in a posture to ask for the vote, call for the vote on 20, right?
That's what I said. I thought.
Oh, sounded like you said something different, that you needed a new motion. I'm just saying that
No.
there's a motion already on the table.
No, I was calling for a vote. For JHA 20, all the commissioners in favor for approval for sellback time?
Aye.
Aye.
All approve, JHA 2020, I'm sorry, JHA 20 sellback time was approved by all of the Board of Commissioners present.
And through the chair, I know I may have dismissed this. Did you vote aye?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure that when you do the motions, you put your vote on the record. Thank you.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes, ma'am.
Resolution.
Yeah, thank you. Madam Chair, we're asking the board to approve Resolution 2021-21 to approve the disposition of surplus appliances and ranges and refrigerators from the RAD Centennial Towers demolition unit. We have 205 units over there, and we have a surplus of old condition stoves and refrigerators over there, and we're asking the board to approve it. There are some ones that are viable that we can actually use. We have been placing those out to other sites to use it. As most of you may know, it's very challenged getting any appliances nowadays. So we have kept all the good ones, and we are taking the old ones and sending it to surplus. And as we have done for the last couple years, we put it on government.gov, where anybody can go on there and bid on the property itself.
Okay.
Through the chair, just to make it easier before somebody moves it, I had a few comments to actually combine, because it's all nature of surplusing.
Right, that's what I thought was supposed to be
Right, so-
deferred.
Well, I just wanted to put that comment on the floor so that whoever moved it can hopefully incorporate it as an amendment in their motion. That way we don't have to go ending the motion.
For 3, 4, and 5, you want,
Right, well, we're
Well-
on 3 now, so we gotta do one at a time, but
Oh.
mainly my 2 comments, and I spoke to Dwayne about this, he was okay with this. In the body of the motion, there was a reference to surplusing it to JHA employees and the general public. And my only comment there was, some ethics rules, to strike the JHA employees who obviously, as I can participate, I can go to an auction, we're all a part of the general public, and so Dwayne agreed to do that, and then the only other thing was what he's already stated, which was to make sure we clearly spell out in the resolution that the method of procurement will be by, or advertisement will be by government,
Yeah, GovDeals.
govdeals.com, to incorporate that into the resolution. And that consistent comment I'll make to 4 and 5 as well. So we're on 3 now, so that's my only comment. So if somebody moves that, I would ask that you move it with striking the JHA employees, leaving the general public. Doesn't prevent the JHA employees from participating, I'll be clear about that, or anybody for that matter. And then making that specific reference that the method of advertisement will be through governmentdeals.com.
I'll move it for discussion, but
can I get a second to open up for discussion? Okay. It was moved by Commissioner Phillip and second by Commissioner Briggs. Commissioner Phillip?
thank you, Madam Chairman. My comment is, thank you, Ms. Hodges, for suggesting that amendment that was incorporated into the motion. But I do have a question. So the disposition of these items and any other items that are done by JHA will be through
Deals.com,
deals.gov.
Yes.
But anything that's left over, will it then be surplus to the surplus yard? Is that what happens after you close out whatever you're doing on deals.gov?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Phillips. Normally, if anything is good besides the surplus, we keep, but normally when you put it on govdeals.com, it's a lot of other housing authorities and a lot of other government organizations out there. They buy lots of it, and they take all of it. So it's not been a case where they have left anything behind, because you sell it in lots.
Okay, so
Yes.
nothing, once you finish it, all of it will have gone through gov.
Deals, yes, ma'am.
Deal.gov, whatever,
Yes.
.org, whatever that website is. So there won't be any that's left over that would need to be surplus.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That was my question.
Any other questions from Commissioner? Commissioner Briggs?
Just real quick, I don't recall, it's not listed in the, either the resolution, the value, anticipated value of.
Because it's, yeah, we do it, what we normally do, we go through a process, we go through the disposition process, because it's either outdated or have no use for us, but it may be of some value to someone else, so we actually get some money back from, and I've been placing that in the board report every month. So you'll see whatever it is we get from it. Some of it just, yes.
I thought I recall.
Yeah.
Having some type of estimate of value.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
Commissioner.
Madam Chair, I don't have any questions, but I would move to amend the current motion to approve by incorporating the language into the approval and into the resolution that states we will be posting these on the Gov deals. And also with respect to the JHA employees leaving the general public.
Right.
That was right. And you correct us, correct me if I'm wrong, but that you included my amendments into
That was my
your motion.
intent, to include the general counsel.
My apologies. So I'll withdraw the motion then. Thank you.
Okay, so we can go for a vote, right? Okay. All in favor that the amendment be done, oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah, I
Alexander.
think,
I'm
Mr.
sorry, I
Green
didn't see
had
you,
something
Mr. Green.
I'm just ready
Okay.
to say yes. I mean, to vote for the refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
Take
Okay.
that off the bed.
So with, resolution JHA 21, with all, the amendments being done to it, all the commissioners in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. JHA 21 has been passed by the Board of Commissioner. Mr. Alexander,
Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
resolution
Yeah, this is number
22.
4, Resolution 2021 JHA 22 to approve the disposition of surplus AC window unit systems from RAS Centennial Towers demolition units. It's basically the same as the last resolution. It's just the air conditioning units. As everyone know, Centennial Towers is getting brand new AC units, so these are most of these been in the units for years. And we would keep the ones that we think we can recycle, but for the most part, we send it to govdeals.com.
Okay. Yes.
Right, through the chair, if I may. So again, if whoever moves this resolution, if you could just include in your motion the amendment to strike the direct verbiage related to the JHA employees and include the reference that the deals will be sold through governmentdeals.com.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the resolution number
22.
2022 with the correction to strike the JHA employees and also to indicate that it's going through govdeals.org. GovDeals.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Commissioner Phillip. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Walker. It was moved by Commissioner Phillips, second by Commissioner Walker. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. The Board of Commissioners have approved JHA 22 resolution.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner. This resolution 2021 JHA 2223 to approve the demolition of surplus vehicles from the RAS Centennial Towers demolition units. This is a total of 6 vehicles that we had. And out of these vehicles that we had, the oldest one is 25 years old and the newest one is 15 years old. So we're asking the board to dispose these. We go through the inventory process and we put these 2 on govdeals.com.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
Just whoever moves this resolution, if we can strike the JHA employees and specifically state in the resolution that the method of selling it will be through governmentdeals.com.
Thank you, Ms. Lazikia. The Board of Commissioners, can I get a motion? Can I get a motion? Okay. Second, can I get a second?
I second it with the corrections as previously stated, that we include the removal or strike through of JHA employees, and we add that it will be sold through GovDeals.
Thank you, Commissioner Phillip. It was moved by Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Phillip, that JHA 23 will be all in favor for it to be approved with the necessary corrections. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. It was approved by the Board of Commissioners that JHA 23 was approved with the necessary corrections. Resolution, Mr. Alexander, 24?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Commissioner. Resolution 24 is approval of the budget. We haven't had the presentation for the budget yet. So I don't know if it pleases the board, number 25 is being deferred and number 26 is the write-off. So if you want to go straight to the write-off and come back to the budget, if that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so I'm sorry.
Why are we deferring number 7? Madam Chair?
Our legal team, Ms. Lazikia, she wanted to dig more into this resolution here.
So it didn't go to general counsel for approval prior to distribution of the agenda?
No, she didn't get enough, time to look at it. Wasn't enough time for her to look at it, am I correct?
Right, so through the chair, I got the agenda on Thursday. It was an inadvertent error. I was copied along with all of you when you got your materials on Monday, but it was sent to the wrong email address, so I didn't get mine until Thursday. And the issue that I'm looking at that you guys will be familiar with is you have an example of how you approve the budget for your Brentwood property parks, right? You put a different hat on. It's not JHA, it's Brentwood Parks Limited Partnership, where you now have Wave, Hogan Creek. So my legal, that I'm exploring is, I don't think the JHA and its ability can approve the budgets for those entities under the JHA hat. So we may have to notice those meetings the way you do your column. That's what my issue is.
That is correct.
And Madam Chair, just to follow up on that, that speaks back to my earlier comments. We've got to, from a management administrative point of view, get a better handle on these things, because though this one is not time sensitive or may not be as time sensitive as some of the other ones, that our general counsel, who's been the general counsel of this agency for many years, that we're sending stuff to the wrong email address. I just don't think that there's any excuse for that, that it's going to the wrong email address. And, and just the idea that we need to make sure not only that the general counsel, but that the board members as well as the public gets the information in a timely manner. So I won't belabor that, but that is a concern. Ongoing concern.
Yes, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, let me just say one thing. Yeah, it was an oversight that this technically should have been up underneath Jack's Urban Initiative, but for the last, so all the way back, we went back and looked at resolutions all the way back to 2017, and this board has been approving both budgets, this and Brentwood together. So that was an oversight. So, but when talking to general counsel, it does make a whole lot of sense where it should be up underneath Jack's initiative and be noticed on his own. We have Ms. Lazikia, and we did ask IT to try to address that. She is listed in our system with a JHA address, and sometimes if you click on it, it'll pop that in there instead of, she's in there twice. JHA as Commissioner Walker and as some of the other commissioners and yourself have JHA email. So when you're going through the process, it might inadvertently send it to that JHA instead of COJ. So we're trying to make sure that we get that deleted out of the system altogether.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to do resolution JHA 26.
Yes.
You discussed it already?
Yes.
You did the presentation, Mr.
Yes,
Alexander.
so this resolution 2021 JHA 26 to approve the write-off for $2,665 in delinquent rent payment agreements, accounts receivable, and as you know, this is a quarterly report. We're asking the board to approve that.
Okay. Okay. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
It was moved by Mr. Briggs, second by Commissioner Phillip for JHA 26. All in favor for the write-off?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, but I have a question.
Oh, I'm
Can I ask a
sorry.
question?
Yes.
Obviously, I feel like we should say yes, but why would you not approve that?
We have to put it to a vote.
There wouldn't be,
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, I think I can indirectly answer the question. So there's just certain authorities that the board retains, including decisions like receivables and write-offs that it makes sense that an executive would be able to write it off, but normally they have to come before the board. I agree with you, it makes sense, but it's a nuance of board powers relative to CEO powers. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also the same thing, Commissioner Green, with the bye-bye time for the staff. It's on the board every year for them. It's the same thing.
Chair, can I just add that I don't want to, I don't want you to think that you as a board can't create a policy where you
Right.
delegate more to your CEO. So how much more or less you delegate to your CEO is a board decision, and you could just as well come up with a policy that said X is okay for the CEO to be able to write off. If it's above that, then it comes back. That's also an option.
Yes, thank you, Council. Yes, Commissioner Briggs.
Chair, I apologize, I haven't heard this matter.
Okay. Are you gone for today? Okay. Okay. All, we, if everyone click, ma'am. Yeah, we're gonna get back to it. We got approved it. Did we? Okay. All right. No, that's okay. I'm sorry. It's okay. So JHA 2026 was approved by the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Resolution JHA 24, Ms. Alexander.
Dennis.
To the Board of Commissioners, we have a break on our agenda, so we're going to go ahead and do that break now. If you don't mind, please, you have 5 to 10 minute break. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair.
Uh-huh.
We in recess? Yeah.
We're in recess, yes. He had an emergency and he had to go. Um, so he won't be continuing with us in the board meeting. But before we get back to our agenda, um, Mr. Antonio, our technician asked me if he could address the board.
All I had was just a simple request, as you're wearing masks, if you will move the microphone closer to you because the mask is mute. So I'm listening to everyone on the board. Make sure everyone's heard there. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we are ready for our budget for resolution JHA 24. Mr. Dennis.
And Madam Chair, if I may, could I move the budget, potentially get a second so we can go straight into discussion on the budget?
Oh, okay.
So I'll so move the approval of the 2022, or excuse me, 2021 JHA 24. I'll move for approval.
Okay, it was moved by Commissioner Walker, second by Commissioner Phillip. Open now for discussions. Mr. Dennis.
Madam Chair, if I may, so, Mr. Dennis, thank you. I did send out an email directed towards the staff, and I hope that you and the staff had a chance to review this email. And I would like to go through a couple of things and would just like some information. First and foremost, thank you for the revised review of the budget. This is much more helpful in understanding where we are and where we're going. My initial comment/question that I have, and I think this is why this structure is important, is it looks like from fiscal year 2021, your proposed total rental income was 10.6 million. 2022, you're proposing an 8.2 million, which is about a reduction of $2.4 million in net rental income. Can you explain the delta?
The difference is related to the RAD properties.
Okay.
So the prior year, all of those properties were in JHA.
Okay.
So now we're going to be improving.
So which leads to the next portion of that question, Mr. Lohr, which is assuming that they are moved to the proper organization in the RAD, do you anticipate that the overall collective revenue from the JHA properties and the RAD properties separated out, if you were to compare them year over year collectively, will you see a net increase or a net increase in those incomes? Net increase. Any idea what that'll be percentage-wise?
It's around $2.5 million. I'm not, I guess that's about 2.5%.
Okay. And that's 2.5% over the aggregate collections of, call it fiscal year 2021 budgeted. Thank you. If I may, Madam Chair, and feel free, anybody can jump in, but I'll keep going, Madam Chair, if it's all right with you.
Okay.
Relative to a couple of the other questions that I posed, I didn't see on here a per unit breakdown of rent and income. Will you be able to provide that to us at some point in the future?
For public housing, the rental income is about $450 per month. That includes the residence portion and also the operating portion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on 30% of their income, but it's a HUD mandated amount. They tell us each year exactly what it is with all of their per unit cost modules based on our occupancy and different factors that go into it.
That's great.
It's between $450 and $500 a
And
month.
do you know what the expense ratio is relative to each of those units? So if we're charging $450, what are our expenses running roughly per unit?
Roughly the
So it's about a break-even proposition?
Right. So based on the way public housing is supposed to work, it's a break-even for.
Okay, great. One of the things, and this may be as much to Mr. Alexander as to you, Mr. Lohr, is I had a question about the electricity. Something that I'm seeing elsewhere is housing providers everywhere are looking to maximize their, or actually I should say, reduce the amount of electricity and or utility consumptions across their portfolio. Obviously, the green initiatives going on. Do you have any, I noted that it appears that we are budgeting, and I want to make sure I'm not mistaken here, I apologize. We are budgeting an overall decrease if memory serves. I apologize, it's not directly No, my apologies. We are budgeting an overall decrease relative to electricity. Is there anything more that can be done there, or is that what we got?
We still look into it. Definitely look into it on a basis. Some of the electricity be going down because of we buying more Energy Star equipment, fixing them in these units, as well as when it comes to plumbing, put more energy efficient items in here. So
Like
we
low
try to-
flow and stuff like that?
Yes, we
Okay.
try to be very conscious of it.
Okay. And is there a, and again, I want to focus on this for a second. This is something that I think is going to come before this board more and more often is these types of utilities and environmental issues. Does JHA have a policy in place, or can it have a proposed policy in place that we should be cognizant of this? We should be looking at energy efficient appliances, energy efficient uses, low flow valves. Tell me what your vision is, Mr. Alexander, around this, because this is something that is very important, frankly, to me, and I think a lot of residents.
Yeah, well, in all of our new developments, we are doing that. And then in the industry, they call it the escrow account. And we are looking to, as we go, because of the capital fund money, we got to make sure that our capital fund money expand as far as it possibly can. It is important for us to be able to look at energy efficient things as we modify each site.
Okay. And is there a plan and like an actual policy in place that is criteria for these various different things, and a policy or a score in place for energy efficiency and things like that?
Well, we just follow the government guidelines. I mean, actually.
So like LEED certification?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. And what about, so that goes to my question around electricity. So, and excuse my ignorance, have we looked at solar panels and things like that in the past?
No, we have talked about it, but we haven't ventured in and using any site as a project for solar energy.
Is there a reason that we can't?
Not that I know of, no. That I don't see why we can't.
Is this something that you think somebody on your staff could research for us and help us understand, let's pick a pilot project and look at the economic feasibility of it?
Yes.
I mean, if I understand correctly, Mr. Lohr, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, 13 million in unrestricted surplus cash?
Yes.
I think that would be a wise endeavor on your staff's part, and I would hope we could potentially see something by next month's meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Along the same lines, Mr. Alexander, Mr. Lohr, it looks like the sewer charges, again, a lot of this is city sewer charges, but pressure release valve, replacement of hot water heaters, going to tankless hot water heaters where possible. Is that all part of the overall structure and planning of what you're doing here?
Yes.
Okay. And same thing, can we expect to see kind of what is there today and what your vision is for the future on how to achieve a better energy and carbon footprint?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. May I keep going, Madam Chair?
Yes, keep going.
Yeah.
My next question, so I do see that we have some reductions in overall contract services. Can you confirm, Mr. Lohr, that all of these contracts or services have been bid out and these were awarded to the lowest bidders?
Yes.
And were there any contracts that were awarded where there was only one bid, do you know? For instance, it was just a sole bidder on the contract?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And are the increases that you're seeing in the contract costs, and I'm really more focused in on what appears to be the HVAC, is this, that's a pretty significant rise in overall expenses year over year.
Right.
Do you have any insight as to what happened there?
A lot of it right now is related to the salaries that our vendors are having. So we're taking on some of that cost.
Okay. And so overall, I mean, it appears that, a net $89,000 increase over year is not that atrocious, but, I think that's something we wouldn't want to look at. So again, low bidder was awarded on all the contracts. And my last specific question is, when was the last time that JHA's insurance was actually a competitive bid, and how long has our current broker of record been our broker of record? Do we have any idea?
You know offhand?
I am not sure offhand.
Okay, so these are just renewal quotes for the existing?
I know we go through Hardin for our insurance for our RAD properties, and they do competitively bid it every year. But I believe most of our pooled insurance is through the city.
It's through the city. Okay. Could somebody,
That's for staff, though, right? That's for staff.
Through the chair to Commissioner Walker, the JHA definitely participate in the city's self-insurance program.
Okay.
So the city's self-insured, JEA is self-insured. This agency, of course, you guys, I think, pay a certain percentage based on the employees into that. These other policies that you're talking about, I'm not familiar with those, but I can certainly dig a little bit with my tort lawyers at OGC to give you more information on the self-insurance program that JHA participates in.
That would be very helpful, because what I'm trying to understand and what I don't have clarity on is are we under the city's master policy program for all of our properties and general liability? Are we a part of the city in only certain aspects? That's what I'm trying to understand. I would assume the agency's covered for employment practices and things like that, but that would be very helpful. Thank you, Ms. Hodges.
Commissioner, go ahead and finish, and then I get
Sure.
her.
The resident relations section, can you tell me what that entails and who controls that expenditure, Mr. Lohr, by chance?
That is all resident related. So it could be the FSS escrow program. It's going to be resident services. We have different properties where we have actual staff on site who work with residents. But it's generally our resident services program, and most of it is covered with a grant.
Okay.
Either the FSS grant, the Ross grant, or the Jobs Plus grant.
And when you say it's covered by the grant, so relative to, it's a net neutral cost to the agency at this point? Okay. My thought process on that is I think there's always more that JHA could be doing for its tenants. And, I would like potentially, if the board is interested, to discuss an increase to that line item, considering, if I understand you correctly, Mr. Lohr, that our overall net operating income on this agency is going to increase, at least proposed budget for 2022.
Correct.
Okay. So I'd like to put that out for some discussion. I'll pause there because I believe, last question from me just on the budget. Bulk cable providers, have we looked into that? Because I know a lot of our residents use this. There's massive discounts available if we can put together a bulk cable, bulk services program. Has that ever been looked into at this point?
Have it, Ms. Evan?
Yes, we have. We would look for cable for our residents, and it's $1 a month.
That's fantastic.
But the problem is that we can't do it for them. The resident has to apply for it. And there's no way around it. And I've tried, and I've talked to everybody at the cable company, and it's a certain program that we can have the bill sent to us, or they would have to get the bill and submit it to us, and we could pay for it. But we did some extensive work on trying to change that, and they won't budge.
So go ahead, Madam Chair, sorry.
Commissioner Walker, if I can address you with that. That is through Comcast, and how they do it to certify, a resident for that, because it's $9.95. You have to be like, say, on getting food stamps or some type of public assistance to be able to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they usually target it with the kids in school, like if they're getting free lunch or something like that. Yeah. So
Okay.
It's internet incentive through Comcast.
So, Madam Chair, to the senior staff, something again that I'm seeing in the private sector in this world is they're moving more to almost like a third-party intermediary. In other words, that intermediary is solely responsible and has direct communication with the tenant, the hookup. The cable packages tend to be much more competitive because there's almost for lack of a better word, a monopoly on that unit after public bidding. And I would encourage the senior staff to look at that because there's also often deltas based on, what the resident may charge or being charged. Say it's $10, but the overall package only comes out to $8, which results in a $2 per unit per month delta that can then be used to redeploy back into resident services or whatever. But I would encourage senior staff to do a deep dive on that. The way cable contracts are being worked is changing. So I would encourage senior staff to do a deep dive on that. Commissioner Phillips, Madam Chair, I believe Commissioner Phillips had a question.
Commissioner Phillips.
From 2021 to 2022, the year in which we are currently reviewing, there is for tenant rent a decrease of about $2.5 million. So how about sharing or explaining with us? I think I know what it is, but share with us why the tenant rent is going down by $2.5 million.
Right, so in prior years, we had additional public housing units at our Jacks Beach property, at Centennial Towers, and at Hogan Creek. And now that we have the RAD conversion, the rents for those properties are going to show up on the other budget for the RAD properties.
So I just wanted anyone that's listening, that's looking at these numbers and wondering why the tenant rents were going down, for that explanation to be.
Commissioner Phillips, that was a great point. Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair, correct me if I'm looking at our distinguished legal counsel, I believe we have a motion on the table, and it was seconded. We're in debate. I would like to amend the motion to increase the line item for resident services by another $100,000. If I'm understanding this budget correctly, we have a $6 million surplus, which is great. Reserves are needed, but we're here to serve the tenants that were here. And it sure seems to me that at least a portion of that should be redirected. I commend the senior staff for running this as fiscally responsible as you have, but that seems like a de minimis amount in the scheme of, a $3 million net year over increase. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner
I
Phillips.
certainly like that idea. I would want to have a plan at our next board meeting for how they propose to use that $100,000 to bring that to us. But I did have another question, if I could, Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was one of the reasons why I was concerned about not having the minutes from the previous meeting. We only have 4 members now present. And based on what our previous bylaw said, all 4 members will have to vote in the affirmative in order for us to take any actions today. And not having those minutes, I know we made some amendments, but I'd like to see exactly what those amendments say.
Okay, Commissioner Phillip. Of course, my legal team hand went up. Ms. Ezekiel.
Just 2 things for the benefit of the question that Mr. Walker had earlier in the meeting. So your insurance question, I'm going to give you this nugget on the spot. So there is a chapter in our ordinance code that governs our risk management program. It's chapter 128. I will put you in touch, and as well as Dwayne, with the new city risk manager, Tracy Flynn. So I'll facilitate that.
Thank you.
But pursuant to the code, the risk program covers automobile liability, general liability, and workers' compensation. Okay?
So, Madam Chair, to our legal counsel, based on that, not the real property insurance.
Correct. I'm only seeing, and that's why I will put you in contact with Tracy, that I'm only seeing 3 things per the code that the coverage can include, and those are those 3 types.
And Madam Chair, based on that feedback, I would, while from a budget standpoint, the budgeted number makes sense, but before the policies would be bound, I would expect senior staff to competitively bid any policies which are not governed by or not overseen by the city of Jacksonville. It doesn't sound like that was done. Maybe they're, again, renewal, whatever, but I would expect that to be done.
Through the chair, so Commissioner Walker, you had also asked to put you in the right posture. You can absolutely amend the budget, the motion second on that amendment, and then we vote on the budget as amended.
Just one more question for Mr. Lohr and Mr. Alexander. I appreciate the budget, but I would like to hear from senior staff, if there's a wish list item that ain't on this budget, now's the time to tell the board.
senior staff, I don't know if you heard Commissioner Walker, but if you will, speak now, Antonio will definitely let you in to speak. Senior staff, is it anything? He said, he asked, was it a wish list that you would like for your department?
I'll speak for senior staff.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the things that we wanted, I think we was able to accomplish in our, capital fund money, in terms of improving the properties. Most of the roofs that we, planned out to do, we was able to put those in the budget. We've been very fruitful in spending the money altogether. One of the major things that we are excited that we're able to do, but we're able to put it in the budget, is to fix those balconies at Twin Towers. They've been crumbling for years, and we finally have the engineer out there looking at it, and we put that in the budget. Last year, we had a wish list, it would have included going paperless, and we had, the board was so generous in improving that budget, and approving that item for $500,000. And it came at the nick of time because when the pandemic hit, we was able to get some things accomplished that requires us to limit residents coming in the building, paying rent online, putting work orders online. But I think for the most part, we sat down, brainstorming all the things that we really thought that we needed, we captured in capital fund money. And if anything, we can have a good wish, then we will like to fix our building up, fix this building up in a sense. Yeah, remodel this building.
But we're not limited to coming back to amend the budget in the future, if there is specific projects that need to come.
Right.
Madam Chair, if I can, I agree with Commissioner Phillips. And I'll say this, I mean, I think this building has served us very well. But I do think, just with some of the technology and, when you walk through it, it's definitely a bit dated. I would like to see, to Commissioner Phillips' point, maybe by next meeting, a proposed budget of a number and some projects that we can take a look at. Again, I just for the record, I do not believe on sitting on surplus cash like we have when it can be deployed for the betterment of our residents and our community. So with that, Madam Chair, I think I have a motion to amend the budget to an additional $100,000 for tenant relations, and I'll accept the friendly amendment that before it is deployed, that we see a schedule of such deployment and uses. But I have no further questions on the budget at this time.
Okay. Commissioner Green?
Yes, I have a question. Surplus of cash, is there a particular reason for the large amount? Is it paid for a certain shopping event? Something happened?
It's pretty much saved for a rainy day. A lot of times we budget to be, but also this budget is a worst scenario. Usually budget expenses, budget income. So if you the additional resident service, where value your input.
Madam Chair.
Did he answer you, Commissioner Green?
I think typically over the years, we've taken in a lot of cash and we haven't paid it out. If you talk to staff around here, it's related to salaries, different things like that. But, we have money in public housing for public housing. So if there's any capital fund working right now to spend through our
Did you finish, Commissioner?
Yes, he did. Thank you very much.
Commissioner
My only
Phillips?
comment is, because much of our funding comes through the assistance that comes from federal HUD, that has to be voted on annually. So there's a certain amount of reserves that we need to maintain that will ensure our ability to continue to operate if the budget doesn't come through, or if we get cut, or if we go to war and something happens with the budget on there. You know, we need to be able to operate and be able to serve the clients that we have, and that's a part of it. But the other part of it is, and I think I heard Dennis say it, but we have for a number of years carried many vacancies in the agency, whether under Mr. Alexander or under McKinney, or before him, even Ronnie Ferguson. You know, if you have 20 or 30 vacancies ongoing throughout the year, there's excess funding in the budget that's not expended. And a lot of that money over those years is a result of not filling the vacancies that, you know, you can say they were or were not needed, but why do we have the positions on the book if we're not going to fill them? But, you know, and so that's where some of that money has come from over the years as well, from the operating side of the budget.
You through, Ms. Phillips?
I
Commissioner
am.
Phillips? Okay.
Mhm.
Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, I actually, forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I would like to piggyback off of what Commissioner Phillips said to you, to Commissioner Green. Some of that money too was, a factor that our staff was really down, low paid, you know, and so we just been trying to get our staff up to speed, you know, with their income. So that too had a lot to do with it as well. Yes, you remember, Mr. Alexander.
So, with the capital fund, our capital fund has been funding us $5 million a year. If you look into, the fact that we got over 26, developments, $5 million don't go very far. And in the past, we haven't utilized all our capital fund money. They give you about 3 years to spend it, but we have been aggressively trying to allocate this money. What happened in the past, they were allocated and wouldn't utilize it. Now, just recently, over the last several months, they have put more money into public housing, actually the capital fund. They have put tons of money in the capital fund. So as I mentioned before in previous board meetings, that the whole idea of RAD came out of the fact that money wasn't going in the capital fund to be able to repair the units. And we've been fortunate to be able to repair some of our units, but our average age on our property is about 40 years old. So we're trying to put the money, all the capital fund money at these projects, because there haven't been a whole lot of activity going on here in the past.
Okay, Commissioner, you through, Ms. Alexander?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Walker?
Madam Chair, the conversation sparked two more points that I want to address. The first is in the budget, I do not see a line item for the reserves. Are the reserves excluded from this budget and funded separately, or are the reserves to be funded from this budget?
The reserves is just the net income.
So, okay, so this begs the next question. How much of that net income should be allocated to reserves, and what is our true surplus cash at the end of fiscal year 2022?
I think it would all be reserves. I mean,
I'm sorry, let me rephrase it a different way. Are there required capital reserves, $250 a unit a year, $600 a unit a year, $1,000 a unit a year, that we are required to maintain?
not in the housing authority budget or for public housing.
Okay, that was my question. And then the last question, which is always a hot topic, I just forgot to ask it. I note the pension plan is on here. And again, being a new board member, I just have to ask, are we fully funded on our pension plan, our portion of it?
Through the chair, you know, similar to the self-insurance program that you share in, it's a consolidated general employees plan that
Okay.
JHA participates in. So, you know, I'm happy to share actuarial reports that tell you what the unfunded liability is. Of course, we have surtax, you know, dollars that are coming in to pay for it. Defined benefit plan is closed, but that's probably a more detailed question that I'll punt over to Dwayne beyond that high-level response.
So I'd like to, Mr. Lohr, senior staff, Mr. Alexander, I would like the answer to that eventually, just to see where at least for our employees where we stand. I mean, I assume it's taken care of, but it's our duty to ask. I have no other questions, Madam Chair.
Were you gonna answer Commissioner Walker now, or are you gonna get back with us, Ms. Alexander? Oh, okay, all right. Is that all the commissioners' question on the budget? Comments? Okay. So now we can take it to a vote to approve the budget?
Madam Chair, I think there is a
know,
motion to
amendment.
amend,
Right.
and then, I don't think that's been seconded yet, though.
Oh,
I'll second.
oh,
Thank you, Commissioner.
I thought I did.
yeah, I did too. Okay, so it was moved by Commissioner Walker to do an amendment, second by Commissioner Phillip.
Just to be clear for the record, that amendment was to increase.
The amendment was to increase the tenant relations budget by $100,000, and I accepted Commissioner Phillips' friendly amendment to that, which was prior to expending it, there'd be a presentation to the board of what that's going to be spent for.
Right. Next board meeting, right?
What I asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. So now we can take it to a vote? We good?
The amendment.
Okay, okay, all right. Well, commend, resolution,
Well, through the chair, just to be clear, and I apologize for interrupting, you're voting on just the amendment, and then once you do that, you're gonna vote on the budget as amended.
okay, okay. So we're gonna vote on, resolution JHA 24, budget.
So you're just voting on Walker's amendment to increase that one line item. So vote on that first to make sure everybody's in agreement with that amendment.
Okay.
And then if everybody's in agreement
And
with
then
that
vote on-
amendment, then
okay,
you vote
okay.
on the budget as
Okay.
amended.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Okay, so we're gonna vote on the amendment to our budget, that was presented, by Commissioner Walker and second by Commissioner Phillip. All in favor by saying aye.
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 Aye. None opposed, so the Board of Commissioners have approved that amendment, for our budget. At this time, our resolution JHA 24 budget. All in favor to approve our budget with the amendment that was put on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
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 None opposed. It has been approved, JHA 24. Resolution JHA 25 has been deferred. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That moves us to the Daytona Housing Authority. I wanted to speak to the Board of Commissioners I know that we had this, because I know we had this discussion at our retreat about the Daytona Housing Authority, but I failed to allow you to know that the recommendation for Mr. Alexander to help the Daytona Housing Authority with their RAB deal was asked by HUD to ask him to assist them because they said that he had closed RAB deals and they felt like that he would do really good with helping Daytona in the midst of their RAB deals because they did not have a person there that was, really certified in that area. And then our legal team can speak to it because after that day we had the summit, she then spoke to Mr. Gilmore, which is the lawyer for the Daytona, and so she at this time will address that.
Madam Chair, point of information. Are we talking about the Daytona Housing Authority or the Tampa Housing Authority?
No, Daytona. That was a miss.
Okay, thank you.
Typo. I'm
Thank you.
sorry. I
No,
thought
no,
you had.
Thank you. No, you're
The
good.
new agenda is on the table. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
On our table. Yeah, they printed the new agenda. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Apologize.
it's Daytona. Okay, Ms.
Right,
Ezekiel.
through the chair, when the board was having that discourse at the last meeting, the attorney, after that discussion, reached out to me
Yes.
and informed me that the agreement that we were looking at and critiquing, and the board members had many concerns to that agreement, was not the agreement that he had proposed to the housing authority.
Right.
And so, it's a policy decision. Certainly, this board can decide whether or not it wants to enter into an agreement. After that discussion with the attorney, I told the attorney if he it's up to the chair who controls the agenda as to whether or not this would be brought back on the agenda. And so I have not had any further discussions with the attorney. Him and I haven't, of course, negotiated what you have in front of you, but this is just new information that the agreement that we were looking at the last meeting was not the right agreement that they were proposing.
Thank you, Ms. Lazikia, and that's correct. It was not the right agreement. That was an old one. And like I said, HUD had recommended Mr. Alexander, and we just always want to stay in a good posture with HUD. They had recommended that he help them. And as it was said in our retreat, this is not anything strange. They normally do this. They try to get the housing authority that's close to that housing authority if they are in trouble in some type of area, if that housing authority can help them. The Board of Commissioners to know that it wasn't something that Mr. Alexander seeked out to do. Him was done by HUD. They asked them to ask him to come down to accompany them with closing their RAD deals. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Alexander.
I just want to make it clear, HUD don't really endorses things, but they don't endorse anybody to do anything. We just happen to be a larger agency in the area that have experience.
Right.
Now we actually help other sister agencies out. And I want to make it so that it's not like that. HUD have to be in agreement, but they don't necessarily be the ones that say, hey, take him, because they don't make that type of decision.
Right. Yeah, I didn't think, I hope I didn't present it that way. I'm sorry if I did.
And I think the HUD director is online right now with his hand up.
Okay. Okay, so can we acknowledge you, Mr. Larry Hayes, you can speak at this time.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to interject here and just to say from the field office, what was the purpose of recommending Mr. Alexander to assist the housing authority, if that could be possibly happen, is that we at HUD, we try to look at a peer-to-peer whenever we can. So peer-to-peer relationships are always what keeps our housing authorities in our portfolio as healthy as possible. The thing about Jacksonville is that Jacksonville has done an exceptional job in your RAD proceedings. I have firsthand witnessed over the last 2.5 years as I've been the director here in the Jacksonville field office, the success that you had. So when I saw that there was I shouldn't say a shortcoming, they just were having a situation in Daytona where their director or basically their leadership had left at the end of a RAD dealing that's coming to closing here within the next 60 days. It's kind of critical when we can assist and keep these housing authorities on track. So for me, my recommendation was instead of going outside of our portfolio, which I only have jurisdiction over anything that's in North Florida, the other housing authorities that possibly could reach out would be in a different jurisdiction that would be in Miami. And it's kind of hard for me to assist going across 2 different portfolios. That includes 2 different field office directors trying to work together and trying to keep things working. So from the field office perspective, I will tell you, yeah, my job was to try to sit back and say, if we can put a peer-to-peer relationship together that could assist Daytona into completing the RAD transactions, and they do. They have 3 chaps, and they have little to no in-house expertise in RAD. So the assistance there was, as the director for PIH in Jacksonville, was to try to assist as best as possible, but not to put any strain on the Jacksonville Housing Authority. You just have to happen to be our beacon in this portfolio. You're the largest and you're highly performing in the country at the top 1%. So it's always good to have let's say a Michael Jordan or a Patrick Mahomes inside of your portfolio. So I hope that helped out. Any
Thank you.
questions? If you have any questions for me, please ask.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Larry?
Madam Chair, no, I would like to get us into posture for a debate. I'd like to move the approval of this contract so we can get into, is that?
Okay, sure, that's one way to do it, but I just want to say that because of the last meeting, we're not approved this idea. I've
Reconsider?
not worked with the attorney, so what's
Well,
before you isn't what.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
So you might move to, negotiate or come back at the next meeting with a finalized agreement after legal's looked at it, something to that.
So I think what thank you, Ms. Hodges. Would it be appropriate that can we reconsider our last decision?
Sure, yeah.
Which at that, if my understanding is correct, I go back to Commissioner Phillips with the minutes would be helpful, but I believe.
Right, but through the chair, I would almost say that it's not exactly technically a reconsideration because you have a different agreement.
Okay.
Before you.
Okay.
A whole new motion, which is why we can put it on agenda.
So, Madam Chair, I would move the approval of this for purposes of getting into a discussion, but I do have things that I want to talk about during that discussion.
Okay. Can I get a second?
Are we seconding to?
For discussion.
Just for, yes,
Yeah.
I second for further discussion.
Okay.
If I may, Madam Chair. So, first, I want to thank Madam Chair and Mr. Hayes and Dwayne and our council. This context is eminently more helpful than putting a contract in front of us asking us to consider something for the first glance. I will say, and I go back to governance and oversight. It is my strong opinion that if this agency is going to take actions on contracts or anything else, there should be at least one reading of the contract before action is taken on it. In other words, this agenda item should have been in front of us 60 days prior to when we would have to make a decision on this so that our questions can be answered. And I would strongly recommend that whoever is on the Governance and Oversight Committee make that a binding recommendation and the board can vote on that. Relative to this agreement, I just want to be clear, kind of where I stand on this again. I certainly have, first of all, I'm humbled and very grateful to hear that we are performing at the top of the national food chain. That's nothing to be taken lightly from where I sit. But I want to be clear, to me, I want to be helpful to our colleagues at Daytona. But I just want to be crystal clear where, we have a lot of work to do here. And I don't want this, assuming we move forward, I do not want this to be a red herring from the work that this agency has to do. There is a lot of work that this agency has to do. Moreover, Madam Chair, I would like to see, and again, it's the lawyer in me, but I would like to see in the contract potentially negotiated points of non-solicitation of employees, some restrictive covenants around what can and can't be discussed. I do not want what could be, our proprietary ability to do things. Not that I'm saying we don't help, but clearly Mr. Alexander has a capacity and a way to do this that is putting us at the top of the nation. We want to consult with that, but I don't necessarily want to give away, the entire secret sauce, so to speak, and have them soliciting our employees who do this for us for a living. Those are my comments on the contract, and I'll defer any other comments, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anyone else with comments or discussion?
I would prefer to see, what is the time commitment for our staff and for Mr. Alexander. And then I think if we're a part of public housing, and if those people in Daytona are able to get public housing in one aspect, I feel we probably should heavily look at it. It's not just Jacksonville, it's a nationwide issue. But I would not like to put more extra burden on the staff or if it is a burden.
I think, Commissioner, Green, what they were asking, I think they were asking for Ms. Alexander to come down. I don't know if they were asking for staff to accompany you or just you to come down one day.
To, I believe it was 8 hours. That includes, but with technology now, actually, actual obligated. Something on that.
But it was just you, right? It wasn't any of our staff. Okay, okay. Commissioner Walker.
Madam Chair, hearing that, Mr. Alexander, I think that it would be prudent that if we approve the negotiation or some semblance thereof of this contract, I think it would be prudent for us to maybe just detail out a little bit more of these responsibilities. You know, how many hours you're going to be there? Do you have to travel? Can you attend? Because the last thing I want to do with this agency is put ourselves in a posture with, you know, the Daytona Housing Authority where we're unhappy with each other. But I hear Mr. Hayes' request in this context is very helpful. So again, I am going a 180 from the July board meeting, and I will be in support of this with the additional information that I think we need.
Okay. All right. So, okay, Commissioner.
Madam
Walker.
Chair, one more question, and this may go to Mr. Alexander or Mr. Hayes, and I'll ask it. Is there a need to make this decision today in order to accomplish the deadlines for the Daytona Housing Authority and their RAD conversions?
Yes, because they have a board meeting on Friday, and if not, if they can't do it, that's fine, they move on to some other agency. But they do have a board meeting on Friday.
I'm gonna get her. No, that's okay. Commissioner Phillip.
That there are consultants who they use some, don't do our red bills. Our red bills really are structured in our consultants. Work with the consultants.
To answer the question 100%, yes. They, how much is important, I don't know. They're not as lucrative as this housing is, but they would definitely be able to reach out to some other housing authority to get. We just happen to be the first, who they prefer, but if they can go somewhere else and get the assistance, they will go.
My question wasn't necessarily about other housing authorities, but there are consultants that have consultants on board. As a matter of fact, I believe last meeting indicated that they use our
Madam Chair, may I ask, I know you asked previously, is Mr. Hughes still on the line by chance?
Yeah.
Hayes, I'm so sorry, Mr. Hayes. My sincere apology, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, sir.
Just for my edification, so I understand, so I hear Commissioner Phillips' point. Is necessity is not the right word. Is it preferable that JHA enter into this for you know, an ease of transition and getting the deal done, or is it necessary? And if it's preferable, can you explain any hurdles that might come in? I'm trying to place, to Commissioner Phillips' point, I'm trying to place the context and importance of this agreement relative to the timing and whether we should, you know, give necessary authority to General Counsel and Dwayne to negotiate and execute this, or whether we pass. So I'm just trying to understand context, Mr. Hayes.
Yes, I will say in all respect, I couldn't hear the conversation from the other council board member. The audio's not good coming through her mic, but if I'm understanding correctly, it's why would it be preferable for Mr. Alexander versus a consultant from the outside to do this? I would say just from a business standpoint, and I'm going to give a little history on myself. I came from the federal government out from outside business. It's to me, when I look at something like this, it's always what's the most advantageous thing that you can do for the folks that are needing the assistance. What you bring from the Jacksonville Housing Authority is leadership from a housing authority that's about to do what this next housing authority is going through. Consultants are just that. They consult, they get contracts, and I'm not saying that any consultant would not be of a standard that could help, but there is an inherent knowledge that comes from inside of a housing authority. You can look at what the conversation and what that actual deal looks like and see if it's being put together in the best perspective. So I would say, think about what took place between Centennial and what took place in Hogan's Creek. The knowledge that was learned at the Jacksonville Housing Authority by time you finished Centennial and you got to Hogan's Creek was so much more advanced. It allowed you to do a much better deal as that RAD transaction completed. I sat through every transactional meeting that took place for the field office over a year's time and simply watched that whole process take place. I'm not saying that it has to be Jacksonville. When it was brought to my attention that the director was gone from Daytona and that there was no internal support system there, it was clear that we needed somebody that could bring something to the table that was going to help. I don't know if that helps ease. There's nothing that would take place inside of the agreement, and I would say that is that it's a peer-to-peer relationship. It is something to help them get and move through, but nowhere in that agreement should it tie the Jacksonville Housing Authority to anything that takes place there. This is a peers into what they're doing to try to help them make the best decisions as they go through their bonding and they move to the transactions. I hope that's helpful. It is not, there's no one size fits all, but I think this is just, it's just an opportunity to get some really good assistance to a housing authority that has to make some really tough decisions very quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I will, just for the commissioner's thoughts, I think it speaks volume that the director of the Jacksonville HUD field office is asking JHA to do this. Again, I think that if we give Dwayne and our legal counsel some direction on some additional terms we'd like to see, they can negotiate. Again, I have come a complete 180 on this. I do think it's probably in the best interest of JHA, especially considering the HUD relationship. But I'll leave the rest open for comments.
Anyone else?
I think you make very valid points, Commissioner Walker. Specificity is still not here. Even knowing our comments from our previous meeting, this agreement still does not spell out in detail what is being asked, at least in my opinion, it does not, of the Jacksonville Housing Authority as far as the commitment of time and some of the issues and terms that we previously stated. And so if timing is of the essence, I'm not sure that, I don't know how we can actually approve it without having that additional information.
Madam Chair, if I may, Commissioner Phillips, and it's more of a question directed towards you, Commissioner Phillips. Kind of what I was thinking, Commissioner Phillips, is we would agree to set maximum amounts that we could do, that we'd be willing to agree to, and we would agree that certain clauses through Ms. Hodges are in the contract. And if that contract can be presented in a way that includes those things, I would feel comfortable giving the authority to have it executed. If Mr. Alexander and Ms. Hodges can't get the contract in that posture, then unfortunately, I think we'd have to pass. But
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, Commissioner Phillips, and I think you're dead on. Again, I go back to what you and I think previously we have like minds, which is things like this need to be in front of the board for one full reading before we take action on it, at minimum. And I think that's something that going forward we need to do. But in this instance, and only in this instance, am I going to violate my own rule? And I'm doing that more so for Daytona and HUD's ask. I think this is something we should try and work through and figure out if we can come to some constraints around. And then if Daytona can get there, they get there. And if they can't, we've done what we can.
And I am in total agreement with everything that you're saying. If we can get the contract, I think it would be good for us to honor it if we can get the contract. And I'm sure Ms. Lazekia going to make sure that the contract is done properly so that it would cover us as a Board of Commissioner and the Jacksonville Housing Authority. Yes, ma'am.
Right, so through the chair, you have a motion and a second on the table. So with the document that's in front of you right now, so what I need, wait, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You're
I'm
shaking
listening.
your head?
I'm just, yep, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so wait, am I correct about that? Is there a motion
No,
and a second?
There is a motion in a second, but I thought you were going to say about the document, but go ahead. I think you were going to finish. For discussion, yeah.
Oh, for
Yeah.
discussion, okay. A motion and
Well,
second
no,
on
we
the
motioned it
discussion?
and seconded it so we could have a discussion.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
But the motion is still to approve the document in
It
front of
is.
you, correct? So to get us where we want to go, because we know, as Commissioner Phillips stated, the document in front of you is not in the right posture. So we do
Right.
not want to approve what's in front of you. But just some minimal things. So we talked about this section 1 seems very broad, and maybe this all goes back to the scope of services. The Daytona Housing Authority wouldn't actually be employing the JHA, more like retaining, but that's legalese, I can get through that. As its consultant for the provision of development and redevelopment consulting and any other requested services. I mean, I probably want to strike that. I mean, what I'm getting at, it needs to be a very limited scope, whatever you want that to be as a board. I would also suggest that if there are specific hours not to exceed that you don't want to tie into Dwayne's 9-to-5 job, working as your interim CEO, we probably want to specify that in the agreement. And I would like to strip out the indemnification. I would not want the housing authority, just any liability, I wouldn't want that to flow, because I think the board is being generous in offering its services in this way. So just the liability, I'd want to skinny all of that out and draft that more favorable to the housing authority as, reasonable. And I can certainly, if that's okay, the direction that the board wants to go in, I can put this in a more reasonable posture, given that we're offering assistance. But I think some of those other things, as far as the specificity of the scope, we need to, I need that from y'all. I can't negotiate that on my own. I need you guys to give me guidance.
Yeah, and as far as the term, that was one of the things that caught my attention. Is this saying that it would automatically be extended, or does that have to come back to the board in order for it to be extended beyond what it says here, which is October 31st? And then the Exhibit A is blank. Is that supposed to be the scope of services on Exhibit A? But it's totally blank at this time.
So through the chair, so then we need a completed scope of services. But just to answer your question, the agreement as presented in section 2 on page 2, it does expire October 31st, 2021, and then it may be extended by either, by the housing authorities either side within 30 days prior to the end of the agreement date. But if you wanted to add a provision that said no extensions can be made to this agreement without it coming back to the board for approval, or just striking this extension altogether, we can just eliminate that last sentence, and then it just means the agreement expires on October 31st or earlier. So, but that's the detail I need you to give me that I can't negotiate without direction from you, the board.
So, Madam Chair, if I may, Commissioner Phillips, I think you're dead on. I would offer that the that the extension be struck. I would offer that the time for Mr. Alexander will not exceed 5 hours a week, 20 hours a month. Is that sufficient, Mr. Alexander? 10 hours a week? What? So, yeah, it's 1 day a week. Okay, I would suggest that the time not exceed, call it, I guess to be proper, 8 hours a week.
Previously, I thought I heard 8 hours for the month when Alexander.
Was it a month or a week?
So now, I don't know. It wasn't 32, I know that.
Yeah, let's say then let's just cap it. Let's say that it's no more than 16 hours a month. And if it needs to be more than 16 hours a month, Alexander, you need to come back to this board and get approval for more than 16 hours a month. There needs to be a non-solicitation clause added to this, again, my opinion, non-solicitation clause added to this, the Exhibit A with specific details around what you're going to be doing, Mr. Alexander, which I will leave, to you and Ms. Hodges to negotiate simply because I do not understand what those duties would include. I'd also ask the indemnification be a one-way, in the sense that, look, if we're just providing a warm body here to assist, I don't know what we could possibly do that would result in us having any liability, but certainly if this RAD goes wrong, we are not responsible. I'm again, I go back to, and again, I'll give you some direction, Ms. Hodges. The default section seems a little odd to me, considering the fact that we're in a one-way relationship here.
Right.
Yeah, like I said, I want to help, and again, I'm beating the proverbial dead horse here. But this is, Commissioner Phillips, this is the exact reason we cannot be asked to review these in one meeting. But I'll defer. Thank you.
One last short comment now. And that is the part that says about other things and involvement. We all received a copy of a correspondence where there was some litigation going on in Daytona Beach, which the HR person that Mr. Alexander had hired is one of the defendants or whatever, named person that legislation. I definitely don't want us to get entangled in as to do with any legal actions that are currently being worked on.
Madam Chair, to Commissioner Phillips, I think that is a great point, and I think Dwayne understands this, but for purposes of this agreement, which is we are not going to offer general consulting services. It needs to be very specific to the RAD. Anything else, Mr. Alexander understands, but the document needs to speak for itself.
Okay, so, through the chair. So what I have, and I'm just going to find Section 1, we want to change the term employed. That's just not the right characterization of this relationship between two entities. So I will work on that, but more importantly, we're going to limit what the scope is so that we don't have this kind of open-ended and any other request. Okay, that was in the Section 1. And then Section 2, we're going to strike the last sentence that pertains to the ability of either housing authorities to extend. The effect of that is that the agreement will end October 31, 2021, unless the parties come back to this board to get approval to extend that beyond October 31st, 2021. Under Section 3, just to be clear, that's where we do have a little bit more detail as to what type of consulting the CEO will be doing under 3A. So I think that sort of all looks fine, except there is no Exhibit A, but we've heard the intent of the board, and so Dwayne, we can work to make sure that anything that's on Exhibit A is within the umbrella of RAD assistance.
And Ms. Hodges, if I may, through the chair, to be clear, there should be no omnibus language here. There should be no discussion about us signing documents on behalf of them, nothing like that, just to be clear.
It's
Very
more
good.
of a peer-to-peer consulting relationship.
Right.
I think I heard Mr. Hayes say peer-to-peer.
Right.
It's a peer-to-peer consulting relationship with the, I assume that they have a new director or interim director there currently. Is that correct, Mr. Hayes or Mr. Alexander?
Yes, they have a chief.
That is correct.
Okay, gotcha. And so along the same thoughts of the board, I would just strike 3B altogether because we get into these other consulting services. Section 4, I guess everybody seems okay with the payment amount that we would be, the Housing Authority, Daytona would be paying the Jacksonville Housing Authority. We should, I guess the two-way termination is okay. Otherwise, you know, if we wanted to really be more restrictive, we could just have that one-way, you know, termination through the chair to Walker.
Through the chair to Ms. Hodges, I would be fine if it's a two-way termination, but then I'd like to strike the language that talks about with or without cause. It should just be a mutual
correct.
30-day.
Yeah.
And then
correct.
relative to any termination, I want to be clear, I didn't see any, again, this may be not being a government expert, I didn't see a waiver of consequential, indirect,
Right.
you know, punitive, any damages like that, which needs to be
Yes,
addressed.
we will, in my thoughts, we'll add that type of language as well as release language to make sure that there's just no liability associated with what we're doing here. And then as you, through the chair
Excuse
to.
me. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Lucy. Ms. Phillip had her hand up.
I just want to make you aware that you're going to lose your quorum in about 5 minutes. I've got another commitment on the other side. We've already lost Mr. Griggs, but you're going to lose me, and you won't have the 3 people. Yeah, because we're after 5 now. And
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and wrap this up?
Yes, please.
Really quick.
You can go on if you want to, but you can
Well,
about 2 minutes.
Oh, you said 5 minutes.
Okay, 5. I'm going to have to drive
Can we
real
have
fast.
7?
Okay, I'm just trying to get this on because somebody's going to have to move an amendment with all of these things in it. And so the indemnification, we'll make that one way, but in the vein of no liability, so same with section 6 and section 7, I'll draft that where the board has no liability, releases, all of that sorts of stuff. And then with the default, echoing what Commissioner Walker said, either restrike it or it's a one-way default is what my suggestion would be. So the overall consensus that we need to draft this very narrowly where there's no liability and there's peer-to-peer consulting on RAD properties. So if somebody wants to move that amendment to the agreement and include in it authorizing Office of the General Counsel and Dwayne to work with Dwayne on the final agreement and offer this to the Daytona Housing Authority for approval. And if they accept it, we sign it. If they don't, we don't sign it.
Madam Chair, I'll move an amendment to the motion to amend the contract in accordance with the terms of Ms. Hodges and also grant the authority to Ms. Hodges and Mr. Alexander to finalize the contract for signature once both parties are satisfied with the narrowly construed language that we are talking about.
Are they going to share that with the board, Madam Chair, before
I was just
it's
going to
signed
ask
off
that.
on?
I was just going to say that. Before y'all sign off on it, can the board get a copy of the contract?
Right. So through this chair, you know, we can do that, but I just want to be clear. If you give us the authority to go ahead and sign it, if I send it, it's not like we have the liberty without calling a sunshine meeting of me taking comments and discussing the comments and wordsmithing as a team online because that violates the sunshine. So, but I would say if you pass this motion, we will definitely send you a copy of this agreement so that you have it. And then if somebody has something that's, you know, they feel grossly strong about, then we can bring it back to the next meeting. I can even put that provision in there that, you know, a housing authority can open up the agreement again if it wants. I mean, I can do that if that makes some of the members feel a little bit more comfortable.
Commissioner Green.
I have a question for Mr. Alexander. What time are you willing to commit to this? Is 16 hours more than enough? Is it just like a couple hours a week? Can we do 8?
Right now, for me, I would just say 8 a week. I don't know where they at.
Well, that seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know where
Yeah.
they at with the maybe require less. I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't sat down and looked at it.
But the motion
Madam-
includes
Madam Chair, I think, Mr. Commissioner Green, to your point, I did move in the amendment a maximum of 16 hours per month, which if they need to be more, Mr. Dwayne Alexander will have to come back to the board for approval. I do think it's a great question, but 16 hours is about all I'm willing to commit at this point till we know what else there is.
Through the chair, he did say that, but I didn't read that off, so I'm glad you asked that question.
You satisfied? Oh, Commissioner Green? Okay. Okay. I know. Can we take it to a vote?
Do we get a second on the amendment?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we did. Yeah, Commissioner Phillip did.
We can vote on the amendment.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment of the contract for the Daytona Housing Authority?
Aye.
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 And now you vote on the motion as amended.
All in favor as the motion being amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
So, we have to close out, our meeting.
Madam Chair, point of information. So to confirm, we are going to lose quorum. Do we have any other commissioners on the line?
Yeah, we have, Commissioner Annabelle.
But through the chair, in order for Commissioner Annabelle to participate online, you need a physical presence of 4 members here in person. And you won't have that once you lose Commissioner Phillips.
Okay.
And I do have to,
Okay.
money thing.
Okay, so
Maybe, yeah.
we have to close the agenda out.
Right, correct. I mean, you, of course, could always call a special meeting, or you just discuss all these items at your next September meeting.
Madam Chair, so we do have Commissioner Fernandez, but we need 4 members physically present. Is that correct? Is there a
Right.
way to waive that requirement?
No, there's not. We had a recent AGO opinion and governor's order with respect to COVID-19 that talked about this. So you just can't take any action, but you can certainly, talk, but you're not taking any action.
But again, I would object to action on some of these items that are coming up, Madam Chair, on the agenda based on we don't have the minutes, which we are not clear about what we voted on last time relative to the need for a vote on 3 or 4 in order to take action. So we would not be in a posture, in my opinion, to take action.
Wait,
Okay,
Madam Chair, hold on a second.
hold
Madam
on.
Chair, we have officer positions that expire as of today, do we not? Through to legal counsel?
We do have, yes, you're very correct about that. We have officer positions that expire as of the day. Can we get a quick motion while Waz is here to at least extend her to the next meeting?
Motion.
Sorry. Thank you for reminding us of that.
No.
Okay. Okay. So, so we don't have a second to this motion. Okay. All right, so we'll have a board without a chair. That doesn't, you can still operate as a board. Just real quick, Mr. Alexander, and I see, and we may have to, a special meeting can be called by some members, but are there things that the chair, so just please, one more minute. There are things that the chair is authorized to sign, right? That you need to be signed outside of board meetings to just keep the operations of the business going, right? So are we sure we want the chair, there to be nobody that has,
And there's no provision for the chair to continue until the election happens?
no, there isn't. Not in your current bylaws, which is why you extended it to today.
Madam Chair, if I can, and Ms. Phillips, this is not directed towards you. I'm just, I am extremely frustrated and upset that here we sit at 511 with an agency that is supposed to be running this organization We have good work to do. And for whatever reason, and I want to be clear, Ms. Phillips, this is not, you've sat here this whole time. I am that we have members of this board who are not present. I appreciate the board members that have tried to be present, but this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. This is not what we were put here to do. And due respect, if you cannot make it is not as if I don't have other things that I can or should be doing. If you cannot be present for these board meetings, I respectfully request that you let people know. You've got to let people know. Here we sit, an agenda item that I had been preaching about for 90 days. We had public comment about the CEO, and we're going to lose our quorum here. And yet again, for another 30 days, this organization is going to go, leaderless from the standpoint that we don't have direction. I am beyond upset. And frankly, one of my conversations is going to be back to City Council and say, basically, look, if there are people that want to be on this board, I love that. But they have to be here during this meeting. They have to be. If I can make time, if Commissioner Phillips can make time, if Commissioner Green can make time, and again, this goes for me too. I want to be very clear. This goes for me. This goes for me as well. But you've got to be present because we're about to sit here in a posture that is absolutely absurd.
Madam Chair, I feel likewise that we have made enough based on the calendar invite that we got. We said 2 to now approach 5:30. Yeah, I don't think it's had we not had the technology there in the and rest and getting through comments taking 30 and more time.
Madam Chair, through to legal counsel, I understand we're losing our quorum, and I appreciate that. Through the council, what is the required public notice for a special meeting?
For a special meeting, no less than 72 hours is what's recommended.
Fantastic. Madam Chair, is there a reason we can't have a special meeting this Friday at 9 a.m. and we schedule it till 6 p.m. until our business is finished?
I was going to make that suggestion. But I don't know what to do at this point.
You have 3 members because you will be, you're still the chair as of this meeting, or that was through this meeting. So as the chair, if you want to state that, to staff so that they can set the special meeting at 9 o'clock. Of course, you may not get a quorum for the meeting, but there's no point in not, trying as the commissioners expect.
And Madam Chair, not only try, I'll be more than willing to get on the phone with you and work with Mr. Alexander, and work with Commissioner Green. I mean, this is beyond upsetting to me.
And it's upsetting to me as well, Commissioner Walker. But as the Sunshine Law, we can't get on the phone to call the commissioners. We can't say anything to the other commissioners. We only can talk when we are in this room or in a retreat or something of that nature when it comes to the Housing Authority. It has to be done through our legal team or Mr. Alexander.
So, Chair,
that's what the
to the chair, I don't really care who makes the communications, but it needs to be made crystal clear. And I hope that City Council will make crystal clear to the members of this commission that their attendance, this cannot drag on for another 30 days, Madam Chair. It's insulting at best.
Yes, it is. So I do understand, but that's the way it's set up. That's the way the bylaws are set up. That's the way the Sunshine Law is set up. Ms. Lazikia have to make the calls. Mr. Alexander have to make the calls. We cannot.
And Madam Chair, again, I know we're out of posture, so we can't do anything here, correct, Ms. Hodges? I want to go on the record. I want to apologize on my behalf and on behalf of this board to Mr. Alexander, to the senior staff, to the members of the public. This is not how this should have been handled. I am embarrassed, and I am disappointed, eminently disappointed.
I'm likewise. I'm embarrassed. I do want to apologize to all of you who took out of your schedule to be here today. We definitely is sorry that we could not complete our agenda because we definitely wanted to. So we are really, really sorry. I'm going to ask Mr. Alexander, if you would, please see if you can do a special meeting on this Friday at 9 o'clock for the Board of Commissioners to come together to complete our agenda for today. And senior staff, if you would, Mr. Alexander, get with senior staff and try to make sure that all of the kinks of the technology, online information, all of that, that it's put out there correctly so that we can move swiftly and fast on Friday.
We'll do everything possible to move as possible.
Yes, sir.
Possible, but let's keep in mind that some people challenge technology because everybody else, all these other folks, able to get online.
Yeah.
We only use one link.
Yes, sir.
Folks can get on some folks, so we think to do the best we make sure it's accessible to all the residents and to be able to sit in these meetings.
And Ms. Alexander, to you as well, because I know this was something that you really wanted probably to be behind you, that was on the agenda for today. So we do apologize to you that we wasn't able to get to that item.
Don't need to apologize. I'm here to service the public, and I love doing what I do.
Yes, sir.
And it's been what it's been.
Yes, sir.
I'm here.
Okay.
And
Commissioner Green,
and
yeah,
I want to say
saw you.
thank you to staff. I mean, I felt like the public comments, I don't know if we were expecting that many. That was kind of extra long. And yeah, technical difficulties, everyone's going to have that. That is what it is. If we have to come back during this week, we'll come back during this week. So, but thank you, staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Thank you, Commissioner Walker, for y'all patience. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Lazikia, for your work and your team that they bring to the board. We definitely, Area, she stayed on the whole time. You did. I definitely appreciate it because just like Commissioner Walker said, all of us in this room, I believe I can speak for all of us in this room, every last, and those that are on the screen, all have things that we could have done today, and that and me and Miss, and for whatever it's worth, Commissioner Walker, I had talked with Miss Laziki about this, that we should be able to know if we're going to have a complete quorum and that they're going to stay the Friday before the board meeting.
And Madam Chair, again, I want to be very clear. If the concern is we are not budgeting enough hours in a day to get through the meeting, then the notice meeting should be called, Mr. Alexander, in my opinion, at 9 a.m. and scheduled to 6 p.m. And when we finish with our business, we will be done. Again, I am truly sorry, Mr. Alexander, truly.
So, as of the Board of Commissioners for the Jacksonville Housing Authority, August the 16th, 2021, at 5:20, that completes our board meeting for today. We are adjourning until the meeting on Friday, the finish board meeting.
Monday. And then every Friday and Monday thereafter, until we get a quorum, this board.
Hold on. So let it go on record that the Board of Commissioners for the Jacksonville Housing Authority next meeting is scheduled on August the 20th, 2021. If that meeting failed, the next meeting will be August the 23rd, 2021. The notice will be public. The notices will be public. Now we adjourn our meeting.